5 of the Premier League. Wonderful to be in the company of Darren Lewis and Tim Sherwood. Treated tonight, but 2 favourites of the show. I want to start with something that's been making the waves, making the rounds on social media. I thought this was hilarious. I know we had such a big weekend of football, but this really stole the show. Check this out if you haven't seen it yet. Because, Darren, I think we agree, the North London derby was won in the tunnel. Absolutely.
Well, in the end, it turned out to be child's play for Arsenal, but it was before the game as well, because Arsenal really effectively sorting Spurs out, really. And that's exactly what that young lad did. Here he is again. Hands on his shoulders, puffing out his chest. That's exactly what Arsenal did on the day, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, we used to do that. I tell you, in the North London derby, we used to do that. When the players come out, it wasn't cameras then in the tunnel. We had to try and find an edge. And as soon as Arsenal come out of that dressing room, that was me with the players, trying to abuse them and trying to get an edge, trying to get them to bite, see if I can put them off their game. Didn't work very often.
I want to say we're surprised, but I don't think we are.
No, he was a bit bolshy, wasn't he?
I love that.
Yeah, a bit like Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah,
hard to break down.
Yeah, well, they had a big away day in the North London derby. They've got a big away day this weekend as well. As we mentioned, it is Manchester City against Arsenal. So we're going to hear from the 2 managers then. City versus Arsenal, the master against the apprentice. Mikel Arteta says Arsenal are going to the Etihad to win, while Pep Guardiola has been discussing Arsenal's strong defence.
Saliba and Gabriel, they are incredible focus with Erling all the time. So it's not 1 against 1, it's always 2 against 1, sometimes 3 against 1. So that's why it's difficult to attack them. So they didn't, I think in 24 they didn't lose away. I think they draw just 1 game against us, and they won it. So it's not just 1 game or 2 games. There are many games. They are be solid, consistent in that. They don't concede goals, and the opponents create much options of that. So that's why I have to try to read well the way we have to do it. And at the same time, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to play the game, and in every game is a chance to get in better or play better or do it better than the game before.
We go to the home of the champions, the team that I think in the Premier League history has been the most consistent ever, not only in terms of result, but in terms of dominance and consistent top performance, I think without question of a doubt. And this is the challenge, that we go there and we have to prove that, again, we have made another step and we can compete and win in those rounds. It's great to give back because you know individually how much people invest, you know, the time, the money, effort, travel. And when you are able to give something away from home, it becomes really special. That's what it's a special atmosphere when we play away from home and how our supporters are living the game. So really pleased that consistently we've been able to give a lot back.
This is an interesting one, Tim, because we know that Manchester City have had the better of Arsenal. It's not been a happy hunting ground for the Gunners there. Arteta saying going there to win. But last time around, they went there, they were happy with the goalless draw, and Rodri actually mentioned that. He said that was the difference in the 2 sides, in the title chase, the mentality.
Rodri's trying to entice them out to come and play. Pep normally does that with different managers as well. We saw him do it with Thomas Frank at Brentford, saying how open they play and how brave they are and trying to big up the manager. Mikel Arteta is not listening to that. He's had enough time with Pep Guardiola to know he will go there and do what he thinks is going to be right. If you offered Arteta a draw now, the same as what they got last season, he would rip your hands off for it, I'm telling you. Away from home, he would rip your hands off. Man City, we know how they're going to play. They're going to play one way. It's the only way they want to play, and it's been successful for them. If you're Arsenal and you want to win the Premier League, you have to go and take maximum points off Man City, and you can't rely on anyone else to get the points off them. So you have to do it yourself, Darren.
100%, you do. And I think taking responsibility is going to be a theme of Sunday's game, because last time around, Arsenal didn't really show enough personality. They looked as though they were going there to not lose, whereas they've got to go there and try to win. 5 points at this stage of the season, obviously 70 games to go and whatever else. It's a long, long way. But if you give City a 5-point gap, given that they come good in the second half of the season, your chances are going to reduce greatly. What I think is going to happen in a match is that Certainly, I'm going to take Haaland out of my fantasy team because I don't think he'll score. I think he'll occupy the two centre halves, and I think the goal will come from midfield. Now, we've got a title-winning midfielder right here who will know all about the impact of not having Rice and Odegaard in the middle of the Arsenal midfield. That's going to cost them big time, Arsenal big time, because City's midfield is outstanding.
Yeah. Well, Rice comes back because of the suspension will be over, but Odegaard is a big miss. He's a huge miss because of creating chances. We saw it in midweek there as well against Atlanta. We know they're solid. I think they've got the best back five in the league.
Yeah.
You know, they're very solid. They have protection in front when Declan's there. But what they lack is Odegaard's control. He takes control of the ball. He allows Saka to make runs. He finds him with passes. Martinelli's been poor. I think Kai Havertz lives off Odegaard's service as well. He's going to be a huge miss. So you wouldn't blame Arsenal going there looking for just a point, because some of their most creative players, certainly with Odegaard, is going to be missing. Now, they can find a solution. Anything can happen. They're talking about world-class players on both sides here. But the way Haaland has started the season, I agree with Darren. I think up against them two, Gabriel and Saliba, because he will occupy them both. It might be, you know, if Kevin De Bruyne is out missing, it might be they need goals from elsewhere and someone else. I know Foden come on last week. Rodri will automatically start in the middle of the pitch. So I think he can't just worry about scoring at the weekend. He needs to realise he's doing a job for the team. He's taking Gabriel and Saliba out of the way for other players to have the space to be able to create. It's not, the winner's not going to come from this man, but he can play a massive role for the team, and it might go unnoticed to the untrained eye watching at home, but he will play a huge part, because straight away in their minds, when they're asleep and they're concentrating on that game, Gabriel and Saliba, when they wake up, they're seeing one face, and that is that big man in front of us there. That's all they're occupied, is stopping him playing.
And they did that last time around. One shot on target only for Manchester City in the game that we just saw, a goalless draw. Gabriel, Saliba, that partnership, once you get past it, then you've also got David Raya to beat, and he's proving difficult to beat at the moment. So are we thinking that Arsenal will do something similar to what they did at Spurs, which is just defend, let the opponents have the ball, try and hit on the counter?
Yeah, I think that's what they will do, because, listen, nobody goes to City and wins. No one has won there since November 2022 when Brentford were the winners in any competition.
Yeah.
And in the press conference today, Pep Guardiola was saying the margins were so small last season that if you want to retain the title, you have to be winning. You have to be invincible at home, basically. And that's what they do at the moment. What I do have a sneaking feeling for is Raheem Sterling, because if you look at that forward line of Arsenal, Martinelli at the moment, 15 goals 2 seasons ago, only 6 goals last season, doesn't look at it this time around. Big chance in midweek in the Champions League. Couldn't take that opportunity. Saka looked out of sorts in midweek. I don't know about you, but he just didn't quite look fit. And Gabriel Jesus, we know how hard he works, but the goal output from him is not good enough at the moment. So I wonder if there is a role, whether it's from the start or maybe as a second half impact substitute for Sterling, to play in a game that he'll be bang up for, because he's going back to the club where he won 4 Premier League titles, and he does have that experience of being able to be the difference in the biggest games.
Yeah, he would worry me if I was Pep Guardiola. As soon as I'm looking at that team sheet when it comes in, I do not want to see Raheem Sterling on there, because that is the Cinderella story, him coming back to Tottenham for his new club. He will, if he scores the winner against Man City, I said it last week when I saw him just before the game, I was saying, if you scored in this North London derby, you haven't got to do anything else. You're done.
Just put your manager's hat on for a second. Would you start him?
I would, because I think Darren's absolutely right. I mean, Martinelli's just not firing. I think a lot of them, Saka, I would always have in the team on that right-hand side, because he can come in, he can win the game for Arsenal because he's so good. But they're all suffering at the moment. The offensive players are suffering because Odegaard's creativity in there. Havertz maybe come off a little bit deeper. You know, find the ball. I think Raheem's clever. He knows when to move off the line from out to in runs. It can be a real threat in behind, because we know when Man City, when they attack with numbers. They vacate in fullback areas, and I think Raheem can really exploit him down the left-hand side. I would start him.
Yeah, I just have a question about the midfield, because we're talking a lot about Odegaard. And on the other hand, the midfield maestro for Manchester City also went off injured in midweek, and we're expecting him to miss out. How do they
but
reshuffle?
It doesn't matter for them, does it? I
Exactly.
mean, time and time again, we see that. We saw it last year. He missed so much football, didn't he, De Bruyne?
Yeah.
We saw Haaland miss so much football.
Yeah.
But like I said at the beginning of, we talked about it last week, didn't we? We talked about if Arsenal are going to win the league, they have to go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and take maximum points. They've ticked that box. They have to go to the Etihad and take maximum points if they want to win the Premier League without their two best players. And that's exactly what Man City did last year. De Bruyne will be a huge miss, but they'll be able to cope.
Darren?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think last season, De Bruyne hardly played between the start of the season and Christmas. He was out for 4 or 5 months, and as you were saying about Haaland, he missed a couple of months around about Christmas and another few weeks around about March, April as well. I think as far as City are concerned, they've got people who can step into the breach. Bernardo Silva could play there. Phil Foden could play there. He's fresh. Guardiola was talking in the press conference today about him being back and fresh and available and ready. Gundogan can play there as well. And the thing about City is their players are all so intelligent.
Yeah.
They all do have that selflessness. They can bring other people into the game. They're so fluid. If they don't have a striker, they can win the league. If they don't have a De Bruyne, they can win the league. I think as far as Arsenal are concerned, they concern me more than City, because Arsenal, I just don't know where their goals are going to come from. At the moment, before this season, they scored, I think it was 179 goals in the past 2 seasons. And all that debate about they should have a striker, they scored 179 goals in all competitions. It was a fantastic number. But this time around, it just looks as though that front line is a little bit out of sorts, and that's why even if De Bruyne doesn't play, I would back City to be able to find a way to get the goals, to get the 3 points.
You probably need another trip to Dubai, Arsenal,
Yeah.
because at the moment set pieces are looking like their most dangerous way of scoring. We saw that in the North London derby. How much of a boost is that for them going into the City game, or do you think it's just been a big week of away games and so it doesn't really matter?
Well, when you're not fluid going forward, I think there was not a lot in this game, really. I thought Tottenham started brilliantly, on the front foot. I thought, hold on, they're going to be able to open them up. But the more and more I was at the game, and when I was watching it, I was thinking they're so comfortable just defending their box, and they're just waiting for one opportunity, and that opportunity come from a set place. And the set-piece coach was up in that technical area even more than Mikel Arteta. He was front and central. So, for their point of view, they wanted front and central in the attacking half at the weekend, because you never know. Set-pieces are so important. It only takes one and you get the maximum points. It's exactly what they did in the North London derby, and they'll be hoping it can happen again at the weekend.
Tim's waiting for the day when the fitness coaches, conditioning coaches are going to be patrolling the touchline, right?
Well, I put it like this. It's all, the manager's head is always on the block. You never see a set-piece coach on the back of the paper and him getting blamed. You never see a set-piece, a sports scientist on the back of the paper leaving the club and getting blamed. It's always the manager's fault. So why should they take any credit?
Absolutely.
Okay, Tim, since you're on a roll,